Hello and welcome to the Gold Channel. I'm Big Dad 06, your host. Today is Tuesday, May 29th, 2012, and with me I have the mercenary geologist, Mickey Fulp. Uh, Mickey is a certified professional geologist with a BS in Earth Sciences with honor from the University of Tulsa and MS in geology from the University of New Mexico. Mickey has over 30 years experience as an exploration geologist, searching for economic deposits of base and precious metals, industrial minerals, coal, uranium, oil and gas, and water in North and South America, Europe, and Asia. How you doing, Mickey?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure, Kyle.
Good, good. I'm glad to finally get a chance to talk with you. I know I've been trying to get a hold of you for the past month. I know you've been busy with a lot of the resource shows in Chicago and New York. So I want to get your take on how those two resource expos were in Chicago and New York, and what the sentiment was when you were out there.
As you can imagine, attendance was probably down a bit at both of them, although there were plenty of exhibitors. But the markets are down, and it's a little glum out there right now, especially in the junior resource sector. Gold and silver have both come off quite a bit over the last, 9 months or so. So I would say investor sentiment is subdued at best right now.
Hmm. Where do you think we are right now in relation to these corrections that we're seeing in gold and silver?
It's hard to say. We are up, but there's one thing I do know. We are approaching the time where there is a seasonal low in both gold and silver, and that's July and August. If you would go in, and this is something I do on a regular basis, I try to buy gold and sometimes silver at least once a year, and I usually pick a time in July or August to do that because of seasonal trends. So I would expect some low to be made in July and August and some sort of rebound in the early fall because that becomes the wedding season in India, which is always a time of demand, and also holidays in other parts of the world, including China and the U.S. with Christmas.
Hmm. So basically, we're seeing the annual sell in May and go away for the summer, or does that still hold right now with the all the volatility in the markets and the crisis we're seeing over in Europe?
Well, I think it has, and we've seen the markets come off considerably in May. Uh, what we have seen more and more, especially in the sector I'm involved with, the junior resource sector, which is really driven by gold stocks and the price of gold. We've seen professionals front run that over the last few years with yearly highs in the market, often in March, early March, and then selling into May. The retail investor appears to be selling in May, and we've got summer doldrums coming. So I'm quite bearish on the markets at this present time.
Okay. I know you've been a geologist now for, you know, 30 years, 3 decades. Um, what was your most exciting discovery you ever made?
Well, I would have to say it was my first foray into the gold business in 1978, if memory serves. And I was a participant in a gold discovery in Nevada using an innovative exploration technique, basically taking samples, gravel samples from stream beds, from dry stream beds, and we made a discovery which ended up being a gold mine. So I can claim to have a part of a gold discovery when I was 26 years old. So that was pretty exciting and kind of launched my career.
Wow, that's incredible. When was it that you realized that you wanted to be a geologist?
Well, I always liked rocks. I think I had a rock collection from when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I grew up in southern Missouri near the zinc and lead mines of what's called a tri-state district. So I used to sneak away on Saturdays and go climb around some of the old mines and climb into lots of caves there. So I've always wanted to work outdoors. I went to college as an engineer on scholarship.
Hmm.
After 2 years of that, I decided I didn't want to sit behind a desk with a calculator or 10 drill rigs on offshore platforms in the North Sea, which was kind of the jobs that were available in the oil business or engineering, petroleum engineering business. So I switched majors to geology when I was a sophomore and a half in college, and fell in love with it. But basically because I wanted to work outdoors,
Hmm.
and I continue to work outdoors. So that's a real benefit to what I do.
Speaking of oil, where do you see the energy markets right now, as far as oil and uranium?
Well, I'm quite bullish for the long term of both oil and uranium, less so for natural gas. The oil business the oil price, let me say, has come off 10% or so in the last few weeks.
Hmm.
But it continues to be range bound somewhere. If we're looking at WTI, somewhere between, let's put a range on this, 85 to $105. Currently trading about $91. The world continues to use and need a lot of oil. And luckily, we're finding more and more oil through technological innovations in the United States. So I think that bodes well. Uranium to me is the future energy, at least in my lifetime, probably your lifetime too. Uranium is the key for clean and cheap energy. And the uranium price is solidified. It's spot price about $52 right now. So post Fukushima, the demand is still there. We mine about two-thirds or three-quarters of the uranium every year that we use, so it's got to come from someplace. That means demand exceeds mine supply, and that bodes well for the future of uranium.
Fundamentals right now for copper. I know everybody refers to copper as Dr. Copper. So what does the fundamentals for copper look like right now?
Well, absolutely, Dr. Copper has a PhD in economics. We all know that. And I just wrote a piece which came out yesterday on my website called "The Long-Term Fundamentals of the Copper Market." I'm very bullish on copper for perhaps not so much in the short term, but certainly the midterm to long term demand for copper is going to continue to rise. If you look at some of the charts I posted, we've had 4% year over year growth since 1900 when electricity became available to people in developed parts of the world.
Hmm.
And now we've got 25% of the world still without electricity. You can't go on and turn on a light switch in great parts of Africa and great parts of Asia, but that's coming. So that bodes very well for the long term fundamentals of copper. I'll put in a little plug. I've got a follow up musing on coming out to subscribers on Friday, be posted to my website on Monday, called The Short Term Fundamentals of the Copper Market. So I will address that again this week.
Okay, and I'll put a link to that article on this video.
I appreciate that.
Tell us about your website.
Well, it's mercenarygeologist.com, and I run a sponsorship model, so that allows me to give free subscriptions to anybody that wants to sign up. There's a wealth of information. I write a periodic newsletter called Monday Morning Musings from Mickey, the Mercenary Geologist. I like alliteration, so you'll see lots of alliteration in my titles. I do lots of interviews, video and television, and a plethora of radio interviews. I probably average something on the order of about 3 interviews a week. So I'm a talking head. I'm a commodities expert, and so the best thing about my website, my newsletter, it's all for free. So at least the price is right.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard a few of your interviews with Carrie Lutz, so I really enjoy those. What gold companies right now are you bullish on for my viewers out there? What is give us the three that you think are the cream of the crop.
Well, I can tell you the ones that I have selected and are sponsors on my website, and I have significant positions in. All in all, I am very negative on the junior gold business, and for viewers out there, I focus almost exclusively on the junior explorers. Um, my favorites right now would be Brazil Resources Inc., a relatively new company with projects in Brazil and on the acquisition hunt right now. Very attractive company because management, same people that did Uranium Energy Corp, a very successful new uh, energy uranium producer in South Texas. Another of my favorites is Mawson Resources with a bonanza grade gold uranium discovery in the Arctic Circle of Finland.
Wow.
Most people think about the Arctic Circle and they think North American Arctic Circle, where it's nothing but ice and snow and bitter cold. But it gets cold in northern Finland. But this is uh, an area of highways and farmlands, so warmed by the Gulf Stream. So the Arctic Circle of Finland's nothing like the Arctic Circle that we would assume it is. So farms, working farms for us, and very excited about that company. They've got drill results coming out soon. With I think something on the order of 30, 35 holes drilled. They've seen visible gold in at least 10 of those holes at this stage. So we anticipate those drill results coming out very soon. A bit of a flyer, I would say, would be Australia Gold. Uh, Non-Spanish speakers would call that Estrella, but I speak Spanish, so it means star in Spanish. And that's a prospect generator in Peru that has been horribly beaten up. But they've got something on the order of 35 plus projects, and the majority of those are joint ventured out. So somebody else is spending money to explore them. And the most important joint venture they have is with Cliffs Natural Resources, the giant integrated steel company out of Cleveland, Ohio, to explore for copper, iron, and gold in southern Peru.
Give us your insights right now on the blue gold sector. I know a lot of people don't talk about water, but water is a big resource, and it will be in the coming decades. What's your thoughts on the water sector right now?
Well, life as we know it, at least on Earth, does not exist without water. So, water is very cheap. It is generally available to the developed world, but if you've traveled like me to undeveloped parts of the world, water is a real concern, not only in the availability of water, but the availability of clean water. So, water has been ignored in the stock markets, equity markets, but we are starting to see some water companies pop up, various sorts of business models, and so water is our future, and I would encourage everybody to be very careful with their water use. I live in the desert, northern New Mexico, in the high desert, and very cognizant about water here. We've had a pretty horrible drought here for the last couple of years.
Hmm.
I run a small hobby farm, irrigated farmland, so we are facing water shortages toward the end of the irrigation season. Just brings home the fact that we need to conserve and preserve and shepherd our water resources. There's nothing more important to life on this planet. wouldn't exist without water.
Do you see gold and silver as investments right now, speculative plays, or insurance?
Well, I am very much on the record that gold is not an investment. It's not a speculation for most people, certainly is not for me. It is historically not a good investment, but for me, it's a safe haven and it's insurance policy. I'm one of these 10% or more of your net assets in precious metals, and I think that should be dominated by gold. There's one simple reason: in times of economic duress, gold will ensure your financial viability. It retains its purchasing power, and to my knowledge, it's the only resource or currency that does. Gold is money, simply put.
Mhm. Explain the criteria that you use to evaluate and analyze the junior resource companies.
I use three main key criteria. I've written about that. A lot of what I do in my writings is educational for the lay investor, and all this stuff is archived on my website. But three key criteria: share structure, people, and projects. I want a tight share structure with a limited number of shares outstanding. I want management to have plenty of skin in that game so that their interests are aligned with their retail shareholders. Um, the people need to be experienced in this business. I prefer geologists or engineers as CEOs of these small companies, guys with technical backgrounds. And I want to see previous experience in this business running companies. More importantly, I want to see success in this business because most of these companies eventually fail. So I'm looking for experience and success with junior resource companies. This is venture capital. These people are entrepreneurs, but if someone's bankrupted three companies, I no longer consider him an entrepreneur. And finally, the project, being a geologist, I'm very cognizant of the viability of a flagship project. In fact, when I'm doing due diligence, that's the first thing I look at because I can eliminate most of the companies. There are 1,716 of these companies at last count, and I need to eliminate about 90% of those right off the bat, and I can do that with a project. So we use those three key criteria. Then we do peer comparisons to try to find out which of those, say, 80 or 90 companies that pass the muster of the three criteria are currently undervalued because, contrarian, we want to buy low and sell high.
I know that you're a mentor of young people. So let's say I'm a young man or a young woman just graduated high school this year. Um, what advice can you give to kids about uh, higher education, wanting to get into the sector? Uh, talk to the young kids right now.
Okay. Well, first thing, you got to like math and science. There are many opportunities for geologists and engineers, not only in mining business, but going to college to get a science degree, a practical science degree, or engineering degree is going to get you a good job when you graduate. And a lot of majors that you could choose to go to college will not get you any more than maybe slinging drinks behind a bar or being in the service industry. And I don't think most people want to go to college to have that sort of opportunity. So if you've got a good background in math and science, we're I would very much encourage people that are interested in those subjects to go to college and become engineers or science. It's not easy. It's a tough road to hoe. I have a minor in chemistry. I have a master's in geology. I probably have 20 hours of higher math, starting with calculus. I had 3 semesters of engineering physics. So it's a tough major, being a geologist or an engineer, but the opportunities there. We're just not producing enough scientists and engineers in our university to meet demand right now. So the ability to graduate with a degree in geology is going to get you a tremendous job offer right now, just because we can't find enough of those people.
Are you seeing a lot of interest from young people when you go to these expos, like in Chicago and New York?
I am. I have people come up to me, and fathers bring their sons and daughters, and introducing them as geology majors or graduating from high school and going to college to be a geologist or a geological engineer or mining engineer. So we're seeing interest, but that said, we're still not graduating enough people in to fill the needs we have right now. And part of the problem has been we lost a whole generation of geologists and engineers in the from the late 80s. Well, let's say from the 90s to the mid 2000s. We lost a whole generation. So because there were no jobs during those periods of time for the most part, and so now we're playing catch up with a commodities boom that I think is secular, basically being driven by demand for modern conveniences, for electricity, for cars, in what I call the big countries. I leave Russia out of the equation, and because not only because of demographics, but it's a mafia-run state. So the BICs to me are what's going to drive this, and that would be Brazil, India, Indonesia, and China.
How can my viewers use this extreme volatility right now in the gold and silver markets to their advantage?
Well, volatility leads to buying opportunities, and I won't address selling opportunities because I don't sell gold and silver. I just accumulate it. But when we get this sort of extreme volatility like we've seen today, when gold has dropped, $25 in the last couple of hours, we're not really sure why. But pick a target price. In stocks, we'd call that a stink bid below the current market. Decide what you're comfortable with buying gold, and when it hits that price, buy it quickly. So we saw last year, if memory serves, July 1, took quite a tumble, and I bought some gold below $1,500, and I think that was the only time in the last 12 months it has been below $1,500. So volatility is your friend. A lot of people fear volatility, but to me, extreme volatility should be treated as an opportunity to buy and sell in stocks, and certainly in my position, my platform to buy precious metals.
And with that, we've run out of time, but I'd like to thank my guest, Mickey Fulp, for coming on the channel and giving us a lot, and me and my viewers a lot of good information. Thanks a lot, Mickey.
Well, thank you, Kyle. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you again.